From our Brooklyn, New York studios, and this man's been scouting for 3.5 decades, David Rawnsley, Vice President of Player Personnel for Perfect Game. My name is Aaron Sutton, and it's time for Perfect Games Down on the Farm. A look back while we look ahead to the very best, and in this case, in the American League Western Division. And so, David, let me warm you up with this. The first team we're going to talk about is where you began as a scout, the Houston Astros organization. Can you just take me back and tell me what it was like as a baby boy scouting as a young man? Maybe a name or two or a region of the world in which you really cut your teeth?
Well, it's ironic, Darren, in that I think I really cut my teeth and learned how to scout going down to Venezuela, where the Astros were exceptionally strong in the 1990s. And the reason it became so important to me, we signed 21 big leaguers in 7 years out of Venezuela. It was, Freddie Garcia's and Johan Santana's and Bobby Abreu's. It was a gold mine. But I was seeing all those players when they were 15, 16 years old, maybe even younger. And seeing the players at a young age helped me develop the appreciation for the whole development process. It isn't just showing up at a ballpark when they're a formed athlete, 21 years old or something, and say, hey, he's good. To see them when they were young, develop the whole story, I think was ingrained in me 30 plus years ago easily.
What a great answer. Now let's start with those Houston Astros, and let's talk about a man, Colton Gordon, out of Bradenton, Florida. Florida Burn, his travel team. Oh, they can develop some pitchers, those Florida Burn. I have all kinds of notes on him, but I'll pause right there. You guys knew him before he went to Central Florida. What do you recall about him pitching for the Florida Burn?
Well, all you really have to say about any pitcher from the Florida Burn is, oh, they pitch like they pitch for the Florida Burn. It's a very distinct style. There's a couple of other travel organizations among the top ones that imitate it, but don't do it as well. They take kids who throw strikes in the mid-80s, teach them how to land their breaking ball, and compete. And they've won, 2 Jupiter championships and numerous other WWBA and BCS championships with the same formula of pitcher. And Colton Gordon was a perfect profile. He was 85, 88, for most of his back end of his high school career, performed outstanding, threw strikes, always had that feel for landing his breaking stuff, outstanding changeup. And it wasn't later until he got into college that he developed enough velocity to really be considered, a top prospect. But once you learn how to pitch like a Florida Burn pitcher does, and you're fortunate enough to add velocity, especially if you're a left-hander, that makes the whole path a lot easier for you.
Yeah, this year, by the way, he was great in AAA. He just got to go to one place. And he pitched well, 123 innings, 124 strikeouts, sub-4 ERA. Matter of fact, last 2 years in AAA, he's 11-4. Longer minor league journey, missed some time in college, Tommy John, and that's why they signed him for a few less dollars. But credit to the Astros for taking a chance on him. It was about $125K. They bring him in, they heal him. They saw something, certainly. Was it just that pitchability?
I think they saw the improved stuff, and it hasn't been a direct route. Player development can take its turns. And Gordon went to Florida as a freshman, redshirted.
Yeah.
Went to Hillsborough Community College for a year, had a solid year. Went to UCF, University of Central Florida, in the pandemic year. And that was a wasted year. And then went out as a fourth-year junior, really as a fourth-year sophomore at UCF. Threw great for 9 starts, made his impression on the scouts, 89, 92, touched 94, same type of ability to pitch, and then injured his elbow. And that's where the Astros saw enough of him to get, and he was old enough to get to commit. So it hasn't been the straight line to development, but you're talking about a young man, now not so young, maybe 26. I think he's the oldest prospect we're doing in this whole series, who spent the last 2 years in the upper minors. He's ready to pitch in the big leagues. The Astros are not deep in their upper minor league system. Much like a Spencer Arrighetti last year, this is the guy who's going to get their first shot, I believe, when the Astros, just like any team, invariably need an upper minor league pitcher to step right in.
Yeah, they seem to do all the right things. The pace car in the division, the Houston Astros, a team that's not the pace car, that is looking for many, many positive steps in the right direction, is out west. A team that I know well, that you know well, and you know Caden Dana very, very well, because this is a big, strong guy. Don Bosco prep, played for Ajay Vulameri, the artillery scout team. Caden Dana, 21 years old. Just before Christmas, he turned 21. This man at that age pitched in the big leagues. Frank Tanana was the last guy to pitch as a starter for the Angels back in the 70s in the big leagues. So back then, Kane and Dana, and how about the journey?
Well, Dayton has always been a very mature pitcher. Lived in New York, went to school in New Jersey, which always confused me a little bit. But
the trains go both
yeah,
ways,
yeah.
you know.
But he took advantage of it. Went to Don Bosco, and obviously a premier high school program. But he was always very mature in high school, not only physically, 6'4", 225, but also very mature on the mound. He's a low pulse guy. You know, you can see how calm he is out on the mound. And you take him into big situations, whether it's in PG tournaments or PG National, and he reacted calmly. He was completely under control. There was none of this throwing outside your envelope. In fact, at PG National, he struck out all 6 hitters he faced. He was that calm in a big league ballpark, all that attention on you. So in one way, it doesn't surprise me that Dana's been able to get to the big leagues so quick. Yes, the Angels move their prospects faster than anybody, but he's somebody we saw from the quality of at least his first start who deserves it and has big league stuff, certainly mid-90s command, curveball's his best pitch. He has big league stuff. He's getting to use it, though, in the big leagues as a 20-year-old.
Yeah, it's crazy. His major league debut was great against Seattle on September 1st. They brought him up 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts. Texas and Houston knocked him around, so the numbers got bumped up. His AA numbers this year, just a few things that I find interesting. 135 and 2/3 innings, 89 hits. Like, no one was on base. Had a sub-1 whip, 5.9 hits per 9, 147 strikeouts. Was a Kentucky commit. Back in the day, there were a couple of times that he and super prospect Dylan Lesko went toe-to-toe. Those had to be fun games to see.
Oh, yeah, and Dylan Lesko, we forget about him, but one of the top prospects in all baseball. But if you'd say, yeah, Dana's going to beat Lesko to the big leagues, you wouldn't have gotten very many takers on that. Another interesting thing about Dana is that he was an 11th round draft pick. And we know
And they saved some money for him then?
They saved $1.5 million for him, which is a rather unique and clever manipulation of the sign slots and everything, to be able to save that amount of money to go after a premium high school guy and sign him for 1.5 in the 11th round. I bet you he's the first 11th rounder from that draft to get to the big league. So,
you think the Angels move players quickly? You know who else moves players quickly? The Sacramento, Las Vegas A's. They move them very quickly. But it's interesting. You wouldn't think that a player who wasn't top of your list coming out of high school, Jacob Wilson, you wouldn't think that he's a guy that would move quickly, specifically at a mid-major. He went to Grand Canyon. That almost insults Grand Canyon these days to call it a mid-major. Andy Stankiewicz is incredible at player development. He's moved on to USC. But Jacob Wilson signed for like $5.5 million when he was drafted. He's already in the big leagues, man. He is the A's shortstop, climbing fast.
Yeah, climbing fast, and you're correct. You would have never predicted out of that class, out of any climate, that Jacob Wilson not only would get to the big leagues so quickly, but in my mind, I mean, you could say he's the favorite for the American League Rookie of the Year.
Sure.
I mean, he's certainly on the short list. But he goes back to high school days in Southern California, Thousand Oaks High School. His dad played in the big leagues. Jack for 12 years was an all-star. He played in the summer for Michael Garcia-Parra and the Garcia-Parra family. He goes and plays for Andy Stankiewicz. I look at the people who have trained him growing up. And there are very few players, no matter how good of coaching they've received, who can look at that type of pedigree. And Wilson's never been a plus athlete. In high school, he wasn't ranked in the top 500. You know, he's a good high school player, but he's always gotten better, and he has some very special skills. You know, I mention all the time his incredible strikeout numbers. When I mentioned that, went right back to his defense. You know, his lack of errors and stuff.
Yeah, no errors in the big leagues this year, David, and 236 major league innings. That's his first cup of coffee and not a single error.
Well, but he's also the guy who struck out 12 times in 120 games his last 2 years in college. I mean, the skill things he does are at such a high level that maybe he isn't, the top prospect athlete, but he is at the very elite level of baseball skills. and that has served him exceptionally well and should continue to serve him exceptionally well.
Nick Allen is now gone, another perfect game favorite. Struggled keeping his bat consistent in the major leagues with the A's. He's got to hit, though. That's the thing. He's got to hit because they moved off of Nick Allen, who many would argue may be a better defender. So it's going to be interesting I'm talking about a no-error guy as a better defender, but Allen's just spectacular. So Jacob Wilson is a really fun one in David's book. But then again, so is this middle infielder by the name of Cole Young. I don't know where he ends up in the middle infield, but Cole Young in the Mariners organization, what I loved about him, he was more of a super prospect coming out of high school, different than Jacob Wilson, signed out of high school, but a PA guy, North Allegheny High School, Pennsylvania, putting out some ball players last couple of years. Played for that Canes national team, 21st pick overall, and he's climbing his way to the big leagues pretty swiftly.
Yeah, and Cole Young is somebody I didn't even put hardly any notes in mine because we've known Cole Young for so long, 14U Festival player who has always hit at perfect game events, always been a 400-plus hitter. Has just performed and loved to play. You think, a kid from northern PA and all, he was everywhere. Every showcase, every tournament. You got so used to watching Cole Young play. I think before in his junior season, before his senior season, when he was an All-American set, he got a little bit of, I've been told by scouts I need hit for more power. And I thought he changed his swing prior to his senior year, and I think he learned from it. That just to trust your swing. But he's such a talented hitter. He also, when he was struggling offensively, we realized something as scouts because we got to watch him play every day at shortstop. It's like, he's a lot better athlete than we thought he was. We've seen him as a hitter the whole time, but he's the one guy in this class amongst the perfect game All-American middle infields who's going to stay in the middle infield. He got better athletically. I think he ends up at second base for the Mariners, which I think Mariners fans out there should be ecstatic about since your second basemen have been, quite frankly, one of the worst positions in Major League Baseball for the last 7-8 years. But he's your second baseman of the future, and I'm hoping instead of taking a mediocre recycled big leaguer after Cole Young having such a good year in Double-A last year, just put him in the big leagues. He's going to be better than what you've got.
No offense to all you mediocre recycled big leaguers out there, but I kind of agree with what he's talking about. He was committed to go to Duke. It was always, who's the better pure hitter? Young, Termar. But those were both fun players to watch as Termar climbs up the ranks. A couple of things during his time, David, when you scouted him. 500 on base at the 21 Jupiter, so he got on half the time there. Ran a 6.460. There's the athlete part that kind of shocked you, I think.
That got better as he worked on that. I know he worked on that.
And had a 6.05 on base at the 17 UWWBA, which is interesting. Don't over-try. You don't have to try too hard to David's story because he had kind of minted who he was. He didn't need to do more his senior year. Like, you look at that summer. One more thought at second base, just for you Mariners fans. David always references you fans. 991 fielding percentage at second base. For those of you that lean on fielding percentage, 991 in almost 500 minor league innings and a 962 in about 2,000 innings at shortstop. So Cole Young, second baseman, Seattle Mariners.
Mariners have a pretty good shortstop when he's healthy in Crawford.
Fine.
I think he's going over to second.
I love watching Crawford play, by the way. That's a whole different subject. All right. Now, if there are famous prospects, Young was one of those, but that's not even in the same stratosphere as the Texas Rangers' famous prospect. That anytime I can talk about Kumar Rocker, I will. You and I did some of our first recordings together. I had left the big leagues as an announcer. You and I were recording features at, I believe it was the 2017 National Showcase. Outdoors, hot. And we talked a lot about that guy because he came, what did he throw, 98 at that National Showcase, Kumar Rocker? So take us back in time. When you first saw Rocker, what was it like?
Well, Kumar Rocker, first somebody needs to write a book on Kumar Rocker, even after 11 big league innings, because it's been such an interesting journey, much longer and more complicated than I think a lot of people thought, but the talent is there. I mean, he was as talented a 15 to 17-year-old pitcher as you'll ever see. Throwing comes so easy to him. It's a unique body, 6'4", 6'5", 250 pounds, and he was always that big. Obviously, his dad was an Outland Trophy winner and a College Hall of Famer, Tracy Rocker.
At Auburn.
And Kumar threw hard, so young. and he was fun to watch play. He has this effervescent personality where you could see how much fun he was having. He was the center of attention at the ballpark for all the right reasons, and just always kept getting better. 98 at PG National and stuff. As purely from a scouting perspective, you on a player that level, you start to nitpick a bit. Yes, he got under his slider more than you'd like to see. That was his big improvement at Vanderbilt, was getting on top of the slider. Yeah, his fastball could play straight, and really good hitters could time it up at times. But the talent, the demeanor, the physicality were all as good as you're ever going to find on a high school pitcher.
Yeah, this year 36 and 2/3 innings, 55 strikeouts, a 1.96 ERA. And then to the big leagues. He had that big league debut at Seattle. Our whole family gathered around to watch it. We were all excited. He went 4 innings. He struck out 7. It was a win in his big league debut. Had to do the whole independent ball thing and all the things that tied into who he was. The interesting thing, when you go back, David, he was the 3rd-ranked right-handed pitcher. Ethan Hankins, Guardians organization #1. He's kind of finding his way. Carter Stewart, kind of like Kumar, had kind of an in and out of an organization. Went ahead and signed a lucrative deal in Japan. He's going to be back pitching in the States soon. So the 3rd-ranked pitcher. And then I'll never forget him pitching against the South Charlotte Panthers at the 17U WWBA in Georgia. Parker Meadows was on Kumar's team. He was playing for Team Elite. And Caleb Cozart, the oldest of the Cozart boys, was for South Charlotte. That slider's so much better with that higher arm angle, right?
Yeah, that was the big difference. That's why he wasn't ranked #1. And Hankins and Stewart, Kumar Rocker, you're not going to find 3 better as in their window as 17, 18-year-olds prospects in those 3.
So you brought us to the beginning, and you talked about as we head into the 25 season with your stories, because the Astros are in this segment, about your memories. Is it really true, now that I have you here and we've paid you these big bucks to come here and flown you into our fabulous hotel here in Brooklyn, New York, is it really true that as a scout, you've done thousands of batting practices, thousands of bullpens you've seen, that you could literally close your eyes and a bat sounds different, the sound off the bat or a pop of a catcher's mitt sounds different?
I would say without question, the sound of the ball off the barrel is different. Without
if you're making
question,
a note, you'll look up.
Yes. Oh, yes, that happens all the time. First swing, you get that, and you look up. The ball that leaves the park in batting practice sounds different than the ball that's hit to shortstop. I will debate whether it's the same with catchers and stuff.
It's on the catcher partly.
Yeah,
right?
they admit. Now, the one time that did happen with me was the first time I saw Billy Wagner pitch, though.
Ooh.
He sounded different in the bullpen warming up, to where you turned around, it's like, what was that Wagner warming up in the bullpen? So it can happen, but the bat, no question.
All right, that's another segment for another time. Thanks for going down on the farm. Perfect game from our Brooklyn studios. David and Darren excited for the 2025 season, especially in the AL West.